Namaskar. My prostrations to Swami Chidananji. Let us start with Sahana Bhavatu. Sahana Bhavatu. Sahanau Bhunaktu. Sahaviryam Karavavahe. Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Good morning from Silicon Valley, California. Good evening in India. Good afternoon elsewhere. I want to have my humble prostration to Swami Chidananji for letting me do this speaking. So here we are. The moment we say Gita, almost everyone thinks it's Bhagavad Gita. That is the most famous Gita that we are all familiar with. But Gita means a song, a spiritual song. And there are many other Gitas other than Bhagavad Gita. For example, Avadhuta Gita, Hansa Gita, Rama Gita, Vibhishana Gita, Uddhava Gita. Similarly, there is another Gita called Ashtavakra Gita, which is a dialogue between sage Ashtavakra and King Janaka. So the disciple is King Janaka and the teacher is Rishi Ashtavakra. And Janaka here is a title. It is not necessarily the same Janaka who was father of Sita ji. Janaka is a recurring title. There are many Janakas in our scriptures. So this story of Ashtavakra is actually described in the Mahabharata by Lomasha Rishi to Dharmaraj Yudhishthira during the Bana Parva. And only the story is contained in the Mahabharata, not the actual Gita verses which were written by Ved Vyas ji. So we always love stories. I think it's good to briefly tell the story of Ashtavakra. So there was this learned Pandit, his name was Kahor, and he was the disciple of Rishi Uddalaka. Uddalaka we know because from Chandogya Upanishad chapter 6, the dialogue between the father and the son, Uddalaka and his son Swetaketu, where he disclosed the Mahavakya Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi Swetaketu. He's repeated that 9 times. You listened to Swamiji last week on the Mahavakyas. So Rishi Uddalaka's daughter was Sujata, who was married to his disciple Kahor. So we have Uddalaka Muni, his daughter Sujata. Sujata was married to Kahor. And when Sujata was expecting a child, the baby was in the mother's womb. One day, Kahor was reciting the Veda mantras, and the child was a Brahmagyani even before his birth. And the child shouted from the mother's womb, "Father, you are reciting these Veda mantras, but the pronunciation is no good." And the father got very angry. He said, "If this child is criticizing me even before he is out, I don't know what will happen after he comes out." So he actually gave a curse that you will be born with 8 deformations. Ashta means 8, Vakra means deformations or crookedness. 8 bends in the body. That was in a fit of anger, he gave that curse. So soon after, to earn some living, he was very poor. He went to a debate competition in King Janaka's palace, and there was a famous Pandit called Bandi, and the condition was you debate with Bandi, and if you win, then you get a lot of wealth. If you don't, then you will get your punishment. You will be drowned in the water. And he apparently got defeated. In those days, there was no Facebook, no Twitter, no phone, so nobody knew what happened to Kahor. In the meantime, Ashtavakra was born. He was growing up. By the time he was about 12 years old, I think he kept asking the mother that others are telling me that Uddalaka is not my father, he is my grandfather, so where is my father? So the mother narrated this story, and Ashtavakra decided to go to King Janaka's palace and engage in a debate competition with Bandi, who apparently defeated his father. So the story says, as Ashtavakra was walking in the palace, the Pandits were all started laughing, looking at his deformities. And after a while, when they stopped laughing, Ashtavakra started laughing loudly. So King Janaka said, well, I understand why they are laughing, but why are you laughing? So he said, I thought you have got very learned people in your palace, but I think you have cobblers. Cobblers are those who are only focused on the skins, the chamars. They have only charma drushti, but no atma drushti. This was stunning to the king. Then the debate happened and he defeated Bandi, and his father got released. Father saw the son for the first time. And then as they were going home, there was a river called Samanga, and he took a bath in the river and his deformities were gone. That is how the story went. But later on, now this is only a 12-year-old boy. Later on, when one day, when Janaka was sitting in his palace, conducting his business, I think this was after lunch, and he dozed off a little bit, and he saw a dream. And the dream was, there was a big famine. He was very hungry, no food. He was like a beggar begging for food. Somebody gave him some food, and just before he was eating it, a bull came and knocked off the food from his hand, and he woke up. And the question came to his mind. He said, what is true? Am I the king dreaming to be a beggar, or it is actually the beggar dreaming to be a king? So he said, ye such, ya wo such. And nobody could answer this question. So he finally requested Ashtavakra to come. And Ashtavakra listened to him and said, O king, neither he was true, nor you are right. Na o such, na ye such, keval tum hi such. You are the only reality. So this Gita, Bhagavad Gita, this Ashtavakra Gita has 20 chapters and about 300 verses, and it's very different from Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita was communicated in a battlefield which has a lot of negative energy, a lot of chaos, and the disciple Arjuna was dejected, depressed, he had a crisis, and that brought him to Lord, and that's where the situation at the Bhagavad Gita. Here there is no crisis. Here the dialogue takes place in the palace, in a very calm atmosphere, and Janaka had no issues like Arjuna. He was a very highly evolved student. So this, in that sense, it's quite different. And as I mentioned in the abstract, this Gita soars to very big heights and starts with a question from Janaka. We are going to take 7 verses in this time allocated to us, and my intention is to give you a flavor of this amazing text. So Janaka starts with a question, and that's the only question he asks. The rest of the Ashtavakra Gita are the answers. So I'm going to recite the mantras. I should have done something so everybody could have the text, but I will repeat it twice so that hopefully you'll able to follow me. Janaka uvacha katham jnanam avapnoti katham muktir bhavishyati vairagyam cha katham praptam etad bruhi mama prabho. Janaka uvacha katham jnanam avapnoti katham muktir bhavishyati vairagyam cha katham praptam etad bruhi mama prabho. He addresses his teacher as Prabhu. O Lord, O revered Sar, etat bruhi, please tell me clearly. Three questions he asks. The first question is Katham Jnanam Avapnoti. How does one get knowledge? And this is not knowledge about biology and physics and chemistry. This is knowledge about the self, about who we are, our true identity. Katham Jnanam Avapnoti. Katham Muktir Bhavishyati. How does one get liberation? Now, liberation from what? We are not shackled, we are not tied in ropes and chains. So, what does liberation mean here? Liberation from sorrow, from the vicissitudes of life we complain about. And this mukti from the bandhana, from the bondages of day-to-day life we go through. So, how does one get liberation? Third question, vairagya cha katham praptam. How does one get dispassion? Now, dispassion has a negative connotation, but dispassion really, somebody defined it as the ability to give up without effort. And this reminds me when Paramahansa Yogananda, who came to United States in 1920, and he lived here for 32 years, he died in 1952. He is the author of the book Autobiography of a Yogi. He describes that when he came, he had never tasted coffee. So the Americans introduced him to coffee, and then he became slowly realized that he is getting pretty addicted to coffee. Like many of us, we need our morning tea or coffee. Nothing else will function without that. Now, as you know, they say that a happy slave is the worst enemy of freedom. A happy slave is the worst enemy of freedom. Now we have become a slave now to our habit of coffee. So one day Paramahansa Yogananda says, okay, Mr. Coffee, enough. I think I am going to give you up. So next day he just gave up. This is giving up without effort. This is vairagyam. And we have these patterns, these habits. And I remember Swami Vivekananda's words 120 years ago. He was saying that habit is a very interesting word. You drop H, a bit remains. H-A-B-I-T. You drop H, a bit remains. You drop A, bit remains. You drop B, it remains. And then someone jokingly said, you drop I and T remains. You mean I give up the T also? So habits are patterns. The patterns we develop in life. So Janaka's questions are three questions. I need to get self-knowledge. This is understanding who you are, your true identity. And I need liberation from sorrow and bondage. And I need dispassion or vairagya. The order goes like this. To get liberation, you need knowledge. And to get knowledge, you have to have a purity of mind which comes from vairagya. So it's sort of in the reverse order. You start with vairagya, then get to knowledge, that leads you to liberation. So rightfully, Ashtavakra addresses the vairagya first. So the question was, Katham jnanam avapnoti, Katham muktir bhavishyati, vairagya cha katham prapti, etat bruhi mama prabhu. O revered Sir, tell me very clearly, the answer to these three questions. So next verse number 2, Ashtavakra uvacha muktimichchasi chettat vishayan visavatyaja khyamar-javadayatosa satyam piyusavatvaja. I repeat again, Ashtavakra uvacha muktimichchasi chettat visayan visavatyaja khyamar-javadayatosa satyam piyusavatvaja. This actually line, this verse is like a bombshell. I mean, just observing this one verse, the first verse that Ashtavakra says, can lead us to a very big height. So he says, Chettat, muktim ichchasi chettata. O Tata, Tata in Sanskrit is the son. It can also be the father. So he's saying, O son, O my dear, muktim ichchasi chet, if, chet is if you are looking for liberation. He gives two formulas. First he gives what is called the nised, or the negative, things you should not do. Then he complements that by things that you should do. So in Sanskrit we have vidhi and niseda. He starts with the niseda part. He says, Vishayan visavatyaja, rule number 1. Give up sense objects like poison. That's a very tall order. See, poison, just the name of it itself creates a sense of fear. Suppose somebody gives you a glass of juice and says, oh, by the way, there may be poison in that. Now, immediately vairagya comes. You are not going to touch it. Suppose somebody, there are 3 glasses of juice and a statement is made, one of them may have poison. Even that little doubt, even the first case, if the person smiles and says, I was actually joking, you are not going to touch it anyway. Visha, poison, is that kind of a thing. Now, how do you give up sense objects like poison? It's very interesting, because the sense objects actually trap us. Sometimes, in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, Lord says, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinam rasavarjang rasopyasya param društva nivartate. Even if nirahara, even if you don't take ahara through all the 5 sense organs, you give up these objects, it leaves behind a taste. And the only way you give up that taste is by param društva nivartate, by focusing on the paramam, on the highest. And in Vivek Chudamani, Bhagavan Sankara actually describes how the sense or objects are death traps. And there's a sloka there says, Sabdadi vipancha vireva pancha panchatva mapu swagunena baddha kuranga matanga patanga mina bhrunga narapancha viranchita hakim. He said there are 5 animals. They have weakness for one sense or organ, which causes their death. Kuranga is the deer. So he goes through the sequence of Sabda, Sparsa, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, the 5 sense organs. So Kuranga's weakness, deer's weakness is Sabda. You play the music and the deer freezes and he gets killed. One weakness. Matanga is elephant. Weakness is touch, which causes the death. Patanga is Matanga death means in Kerala they trap these elephants by putting for a male elephant they put a female elephant, a big hole there, and as the elephant starts running it gets trapped. Patanga is the moth insect which runs into the fire and burns itself. Meena is fish, the taste, rasa, how it gets trapped by the fisherman. And Vrunga is the honey bee, the smell. It goes after the honey and gets trapped. So the last line says, this is the situation with these 5 animals. One weakness for one sense organ that causes their death. Let's not even talk about we humans. We have weakness for all 5. And this interesting is Vishayam Vishavatyaja. See the two words, Visha and Vishaya. There is only one letter difference. Visha is poison and Vishaya is objects. The difference is ya. And Bhagavan Shankaracharya says, actually Vishaya is more dangerous than Visha. Because if the poison is in front of you, nothing happens. You have to swallow the poison. You have to take it inside the system before you get killed. Whereas Vishaya is something that you don't have to even do anything. It kills you. He says, Vishang nihanti bhoktaram drashtaram chakshusapyayam. Only bhoktaram, only who takes the poison gets killed. Whereas drashtaram, only by looking at it or by using our sense organs we get killed. So this is the Visha and Vishavatyaja, and all this comes from desire. All our, whether we see, hear, smell, touch, taste, all this comes out of desire, and desire is one of those things that has many cousin brothers. You have this Sadaripu, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Mascharya. So desires, when it gets obstructed, becomes the first cousin, which is Krodha, anger. Desire fulfilled becomes Lobha, because you want more. You are not happy with what you got. And the third cousin is Moha. You are obsessed with a desire, can't sleep at night. It keeps bugging you. And Mada means pride. I have stuff. I am very proud of it. And Mascharya means you have it, I don't have it. I am jealous of you. Jealousy. So all these are cousins of Kama. And one Swamiji mentioned one time that we have to wage a war against desire. And sometimes the equation says happiness equals desires fulfilled divided by desires entertained. So you have 100 desires entertained, you have fulfilled 7 of them, it's 7% happy. The problem is the denominator is not a constant. It keeps changing. So the formula there is, if you make the denominator 0, then anything divided by 0 becomes infinity. So your happiness is infinity. That's why we have seen in Chandogya Upanishad chapter 7, Bhuma Vidya, Bhumeiva Sukham, na alpe sukha nasti. Back to the answer, Mukti Michhasi Chettat, Vishayan Vishavatyaja, give up, renounce sense objects like poison. This renouncing business is not easy. It's easier said than done. But we have to do it. Then the second line says, Khamarjapa daya toso, Satyam piyushabad bhaja. There are 5 things. Bhaja means worship. Here bhaja means sevanam, like also the sevanam. What are these 5 things? Kshama, forgiveness, arjava, straightforwardness, daya, compassion, tosam, santosam, contentment, and satyam, truthfulness. So are these values or are these virtues? Think about that. Sometimes it's not easy to answer that question. But the easy answer is the values are those we respect and virtues are those we live. We own them, we internalize them, we live them. It's not good to say I'm truthful 5 days a week. Uncompromisingly living them makes them virtues. What are these 5 things? What is Kshama? Is akrodha. Kshama is the opposite of anger, but don't feel offended. The moment you say my feelings are hurt, I'm offended, that's where you have to start this forgiveness to yourself. Arjava is very interesting word. Arjava is straightforwardness between thought, words and action. You can't give different answers to the same question to different people. That's called manipulation. Straightforwardness. I remember years ago, 20 years ago, Swami Chidanandji, in a satsang at our house, gave the definition of stress. I have used it over the years. He said, stress is directly proportional to the delta, to the gap between who you are versus what you project yourself to be. The more the difference, the worse is the stress. So the bottom line is just be yourself, be straightforward. That is Arjava. And the next thing is Khamarjava Daya is compassion, Tosa is Santosha, contentment. You have to be contented. Atmani Atmana Tushtaha, Sthita Prajna Stadochyate. That's how Bhagavan begins the Sthita Prajna Lakshana in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita. And Satyam is a very key virtue, truthfulness. I mean, we can't preach truthfulness. Then when the phone rings, tell our child, tell whoever on the phone that daddy is not home. This is not truthfulness. We have to live it. So Ashtavakra's answer, he begins with Vairagya, the most important part. Mukti michchasi chettata, vishayan visavatyaja, Khamarjava daya tosa, satyam piyu sabadbhaja. Verse number 3. Na prithvi na jalam na agnihi, na vayu dyor na va bhavan, esam sakkhinam atmanam, chidrupam vidhi muktaye. Repeat again. Na prithvi na jalam na agnihi, na vayu dyor na va bhavan, esam sakkhinam atmanam, chidrupam vidhi muktaye. So the comment is said that the first two verses probably is about sadhana. The rest of Ashtavakra Gita gets to Nitidhyasana. As you know, our path of knowledge has 3 steps: Sravanam, Mananam, Nitidhyasanam. And Sravanam is for Ajnana Nibruti, is for elimination of ignorance. So you must listen about the scriptures from a teacher. And Mananam is for Sansaya Nibruti, elimination of doubt, reflecting on what you have heard is the second step. And the third step is in Nitidhyasana, where is the elimination of Viparita Bhavana, contrary thoughts. So this text, from now on, it continues into the Nitidhyasana part. So in this verse, he talks about you are not these 5 elements, not Prithvi, no Jalam, no Agnihi, no Vayu, no Dyav, Bhavan. You are not the 5 elements. You may say that I never thought I was. Well, your body is constructed of the Pancha Mahabhuta. Yes, it is the earth, it has the shape, it's all water, it has fire. Somebody said that a husband was measuring the temperature of the wife who said she has fever, but it was a faulty thermometer. And somehow he called the doctor. He says, "Doctor, my wife is very sick, very high fever, it's 200 degrees. So the doctor paused and said, I think you are calling the wrong number, you should call the fire brigade. Yes, fire is important, 98.6 degrees, the body maintains that. So we have air, of course, prana, which is air that keeps our body alive. So we talk about the pancha prana, prana, samana, udana, apana, vyana. Some moves north, south, some moves east, west, some move circular motion, how they keep our bodies alive. But you are not these 5 elements. Now this reminds us the famous Nirvana Satakam of Sankaracharya. Mano buddhya hankar chittani naham nacha srotra jive nacha ghrana netre nacha vyoma bhumi na tejo na vayu chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. So the third line, nacha vyoma bhumi na tejo na vayu, that's exactly what he's saying. You are not. That means you are not this physical body. Na prithvi, na jalam, na agnihi, na vayu, dyav, na va bhavan. Esam sakkhinam atmanam chidrupam vidhi muktaye. Then what are you? Esam sakkhinam atmanam chitrupam vidhi muktaye. Chitrupam. Abide in the consciousness Sakshinam Atmanam. Now this concept of Sakshi is very interesting in Vedanta. A Sakshi, a witness, is one who is not involved in the event. A Sakshi was there before the event, during the event, after the event. And in the day-to-day world, we know that there are people who supply witnesses in the outside the court. Somebody had a company and he named the company. No matter what happened, where and when, we have seen it company. And we are not talking about that. See, in the Drukdrushya Viveka, another wonderful text, the discrimination between the seer and the seen, S-E-E-R and S-E-E-N. It's a Rupam Drusyam Lochanam Druk. You see an object, a form, that is the seen, and eyes are the seer. Tadrusya Draktu Manasam. Now, eye is the seen, mind is the seer. Drusyadhi Vruttaya Sakshi Drugeva Natu Drusyate. Now, mind is a flow of thoughts, Vrutti. Those Vruttaya are the mind, is now the seen, and who is the seer? It is the word Sakshi is used. Drugeva Natu Drusyate. That Sakshi has no seer. It is the ultimate seer. So, Esam Sakshinam Atmanam, that illuminator, that witness, when you go to sleep and you have a dreamless sleep, you get up in the morning and you say that I slept very well. Well, your mind was not there, your body was not there. Who was watching? That is the illuminator. That is the Sakshi. Na Prithvi na Jalam, na Agnihi, na Vayu Diorna Bhavan, Esam Sakshinam Atmanam Chidrupam Vidhi Muktaye. Now we go to the fourth stanza. Yadi deham pruthak krutya chiti visramya tishtasi adhuneva sukhi shantaha bandha mukto bhavishyasi. Yadi deham pruthak krutya chitti visramya tishtasi adhuneva sukhi shantaha bandha mukto bhavishyasi. Yadi deham pruthak krutva. If you can separate your physical body, chitti visramya tishtati, you can abide in the consciousness, tishtasi, adhuneva sukhi santa, instantly, right now. You want an instant answer, right? You don't want to wait, not after 5 years, not after I'm 60. Adhuneva sukhi shanta bandha mukta bhavishyasi. You will get free instantly. I want to give an example. Imagine a bucket. A bucket has water and it's kept outside where the sun's reflection is on the bucket. So we have four things. We have the bucket, we have the water, we have the reflection of the sun, and we have the sun. The bucket is the sthula sarira, it's the physical body. The water is the sukma sarira, it's the mind intellect. All of us have the sukma sarira. The reflection of the sun is what we call the individual Atma, Chidabhasa, Chit Pratibimba, Chit Chaya, these words are used. That is the reflected consciousness, which we call the Jiva. And the sun is Brahman, the consciousness. So sometimes, we have seen this Jnana Mudra. When you look at these 5 fingers, we say, you have the 3 sariras. You have the Sthula Sarira, Sukma Sarira, Karana Sarira. You are not that. This is your individual Atma and this is Brahman. When we do this, this is called the Jnana Mudra. Atma, Brahma, Aikya. Bring the Tattvamasi. You are that. You are actually the sun. You are that consciousness. So the first question or the second verse that talks about Mukti Michasi Chettata, another version of that, very similar. Sankara was very inspired by this text. So he writes very similar. Just for fun, I will recite this. Mokhyasya kankhya yadi vaitavasti tyajati durat visayan visamyatha piyusavatto sadayakhyamārjava prasantidanti bhajanitya madarat. Very similar to this thought process. So in this verse he says, Yadi dehang pruthak krutya chitti visramya tishtasi adhuneva sukhi shantaha bandha mukta bhavishyasi. Instant happiness. If you can dissociate. Now we have heard Mahatmas like Ramana Maharshi or Ramakrishna, they had big physical illnesses. Ramana had cancer, but there was the smile never left his face. Ramakrishna has throat cancer, Paramahansa. They are the people who could do this. Jadi dehang pruthak krutva chitti visramya tishtasi adhuneva sukhi shanta bandha muktar bhavishyasi. Now what is this bandha then? I am not the body is the biggest bondage. I am this body is the biggest bondage. When we say, who are you? We start with, I am so and so, I am son of so and so, I am from this location, I am this tall, I am this much weight, I have this degree. We stay there and we have identified with the bucket. We have not even graduated to the water. We have to give up the bucket and the water and even the individual reflection. And you know, in Upadesha the Bhagavan Ramana towards the end of the Upadesha, King Swarupami Tyatma Darsane Abhyaya Bhava Purna Chit Sukham. That Atma Darsana, what is it? 5 things. Abhyaya, Abhava, Apurna, Chit, Sukham. That is where the Sukham comes. Adhuneva Sukha Santaha. You may be happy with worldly pleasures temporarily, but do you have peace? Do you have Santi? That's why Bhagavan says, Asantasya Kutah Sukham. Where is Sukham to the one without Santi? We continue to the next verse. Natvam vipradiko varno nasrami nakhya gocharaha asangosi nirakaro vishwasakshi sukhi bhava. Natvam vipradiko varno nasrami nakhya gocharaha asangosi nirakaraha vishwasakshi sukhi bhava. Natvam vipradi, you are not these varnas. Vipra is Brahmana, so we have this Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. You are the scholar, you are the administrator, you are the warrior, you are the worker. You are none of this. No ashrami, the 4 ashramas of life: Brahmacharya, Gruhastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. Somebody jokingly said, in these 4 ashramas you first learn, that is Brahmachari, earn, that is Gruhastha, then turn, that is Vanaprastha, retirement, then no return, that is Sannyasa. So you are none of these 4 ashramis. So in the famous verse that Swamiji taught us many years ago, Hastamalaka Stotram, and when Sankara asked Hastamalaka, Kastvam siso kasya kuto siganta king namate tvam kutagatosi etan mayoktam vadacharvakatvam matpritaye priti vivardhanosi. O child, who are you? Where have you come from? Where are you going? Tell me all this and make me very happy. And this young boy who never spoke before answers, Naham manusyo na cha deva yaksho na brahmana kshatriya vaishya sudraha na brahmachari na gruhi vanastaha bhikshur na chaham nijabodha rupaha. This is exactly this verse we are talking about. I am not this brahmana kshatriya, I am not manushya deva gandharva, I am not this brahmana kshatriya vaishya sudra, I am not brahmachari, I am not gruhastha, I am not vanaprastha sannyasi. Nijabodha rupa, I am residing in my own self. That's who I am. Natvam vipradiko varna nasrami nakhya gocharaha asangosi nirakara. You are asanga. Asangoham, 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 puna puna. Sankara has written, nirakara, I am formless. Vishwa Sakshi Sukhi Bhava. I am the witness of this whole universe. I am that sun. I am not this little bucket, the reflection. I am not just witnessing my own self. I am witnessing the entire universe. Vishwa Sakshi, you are that. So Swamiji always told us the difference between the little I and the big I. I find it so interesting to keep in mind. The little I is the one crying, complaining, most of us. I am dukhi, I am sukhi, I am excited, I am depressed. We go through all this. That is the small I. And in mathematics, small I is a symbol for the square root of -1, which is an imaginary number. We always say that. So this complaining, crying, small I is an imaginary entity. That's not me. I am that capital I. I am that self with the capital S, not the little s. This is what he is talking about. Natvang vipradiko varno nasrami nakhya gocharaha asangosi nirakaraha vishwasakshi sukhi bhava. Sukhi bhava. He ends with that. That's what gives you the real sukha. Now we jump to verse number 8. Actually, the following verse to what I recited, dharma dharmo sukham dukkham manasani na te vibho na kartasi na bhoktasi mukta evasi sarvada. All this dharma, adharma, sukha, dukkha, these are all play of the mind. Oh vibho, oh all pervading one. Ashtavakra tells King Janaka, Nakartasi, you are not the karta, you are not the bhokta, you are not the doer, you are not the experiencer, you are always free. That leads to the 8th verse. Aham kartetyaham mana mahakrusnahi dansitaha naham karteti vishwasam amrutam pitva sukhi bhava. Aham kartetyaham mana mahakrusnahi dansitaha Naham karteti vishwasa amrutam pitva sukhi bhava. It's a very powerful line. It says, Aham karteti, I am the doer. Aham mana, my ego, abhimana. This ego is like a Maha Krishna ahi dansitaha. Maha is big, Krishna is black, ahi is snake. It's like a big black cobra. I'm smitten by this big black cobra. And who is this black cobra? It is this, I am the doer, my ego. Naham karteti vishwasam, amrutam pitva sukhi bhava. I am not the doer. That conviction is like the nectar, like the ambrosia. If you can take that 3 times a day, 2 teaspoonfuls, you will be happy. Aham karteti aham mana maha krishnahi dansitaha. Naham karteti vishwas amrutam pitva sukhi bhava. So we jump to the last verse that I selected for this talk, which is verse number 12. And this is in line with, if you think about Nirbana Satakam, the 6 stanzas to liberation, it starts with Mano Buddhi Hankara Chittani Naham. It's a very beautiful sequence. Second verse talks about Nacha prana sagyo na vaipancha vayu nava pancha saptadhatu nava pancha kosha. Then the third line goes into the mind level. Name dvesha raga, name lobha moha, madhu. Then the 4th verse talks about na punyam na papam na saukhyam na dukkham na mantro na tirtham na vedana yajna. Then the 5th verse talks about, since I don't have a birth, I don't have a death, Name mrityu shanka, name jati bheda. Pita naiva me naiva mata na janma, na bandhur na mitram na guru naiva sisyaha. Chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. The last verse of the 6 verses, Nirbana Satakam. Then who am I? And that is similar to this. So we'll come back to that. Atma sakshi vibhu purna eko muktaschidakriyah asango nispruha santaha brahmat sansara vaniva. One more time. Atma sakshi vibhu purna eko muktaschidakriyah asango nispruha santaha brahmat sansara vaniva. Atma sakshi, all these are for nitidhyasana. Sakshi is that illuminator, that witness. It's the light behind the light. Srotrasya Srotrang Manaso Manoyat. Eye of the eye, ear of the ear in Kena Upanishad we have studied. Vibhuhu, all pervading, Purna, complete. Eko, one without a second. Mukta, free. Chit, consciousness. Akriyaha, actionless. Each of these adjectives, asangaha, unattached. Nispruha, desireless. Santaha, full of peace. This is who I am. So in the 6th verse of the Nirvana Satakam, aham nirvikalpo nirakara rupaha vibhurvyapya sarvatra sarvendriyanam sadame samatvam na muktir na bandha chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham. Similar to the same line, Abhyaya, Abhava, Apurna, Chit Sukham in Upadesha Saram. Atma Shakshi, Atma is Sakshi, Vibhu, all pervading, Purna, Ekaha, Muktaha, Chit, Akriyaha, Asangaha, Nispruhaha, Santaha. Brahmat Sansarvan Iva. By mistake, this whole feeling I am a Sansari, I am a Dukhi, I've got a lot of problems. You don't seem to understand my issues. All this vanishes once we know who we truly are. We are that Satchit Ananda, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. We are that sun. We are not the bucket. We are not the water. We are not the reflection of the sun. We are the sun. This text is an amazing text, and I want to close this by just reading. So this book, Ashtavakra Gita, done by Swami Chinmayanandji, just want to read one line he says about Ashtavakra Gita. In communicating to the seekers the unsurpassing beauty and indefinable perfections of the Absolute, the Upanishads stammer, the Brahma Sutras exhaust itself, and the Bhagavad Gita hesitates with an excusable shyness. A theme in dealing with which even these mighty books of Hinduism are thus at best unsatisfactory, we must in sheer gratitude admire Ashtavakra Samhita for the brilliant success it has achieved in communicating through words perhaps more clearly the nature and glory of the Supreme Reality than by the Prasthanatraya. So you can see how different this text is to everything. Yes, it's advanced, but it is, I just wanted to give a flavor of this to all of you, to share what I have learned, and hopefully it was of some value. I will close. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Any questions, comments, anything you want to discuss? You're welcome to ask. I won't promise I'll have the answers, but anything I can answer, Swamiji. I see a hand here. Yes, Swamiji.
Yes, Nanranjanji, this was excellent. Thank you, and I am so glad I thought of you to join our panel. And it has been a wonderful mix of real good content and a lot of sprinkling of beautiful Sanskrit, and then a touch of humor, which is also most welcome. So, first of all, I congratulate you, and whenever somebody performs well, there is a problem, you will have to come again and again now. Be ready. So, very good, and so many nice things you said. Right now, I don't have a question as such. I joined actually just 2 minutes late. But I want to tell you that for my own webinars, normally I am 5 minutes late. For yours, I am only 2 minutes late. Um, so perhaps only a suggestion. Another time, either in Ashtavakra Gita itself or in some other text, you can probably take something more specific and go more deeper. Here you have given us a broad picture of the main teachings of Ashtavakra. You began so beautifully with the story. One thing I had heard slightly a different version saying that I'll conclude my inputs. That Ashtavakra, while in the womb of his mother, got those 8 deformities. You said that is, I'm sure, one correct version. The father cursed him out of anger. Another version goes, which also is impressive, that every time the father made a mistake in his chant, the child moved out of discomfort, and therefore some deformity took place. So 8 times he moved, it seems, and that caused some deformity in his body. So, however, Abhinandan, and we look forward to having you more often in these webinars.
Thank you,
Thank
Swamiji. It's your blessings only.
you. Hari Om, Hari Om.
Hari Om. I have another hand here, Rani Limai. Okay, let's see. Yes, Rani ji.
Thank you very much for a wonderful, retreat here. It was wonderful. The part I like is in the second verse. You say, you very distinctly about wish, which is a poison, and vishaya. And I just want to know where, at what point, we get, by just looking, without doing anything, the objects kill us. So where did this transaction happen with Jiva and the objects, that we got so taken by, or one can say so much controlled by the objects?
Well,
Can we go to the root cause?
I can only, I feel humbled with Swamiji's presence. I think probably he has a better answer, but I think, the dhyayate vishayan punsa sangaste supajayate, sangat sanjayate kama, kamat krodho vijayate, as Bhagavan Krishna says in second chapter. Our association with an object of desire takes us to the ladder of fall, as he describes. Just by watching something, that association begins, then the desire comes, then there is anger, then krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat shruti vibhramaha, shruti bhramsat buddhinasha, buddhinasat pranasyati. I think all of this starts killing us. I think that's the spirit of that verse I said, Visang nihanti bhoktaram. Only when you take the poison, it impacts you. But the Vishayas are impacting you the moment you start thinking about it, looking at it, using your sense organs. That's the spirit. In Vivek Chudamani, that's the verse Bhagavan Sankara has said, why Vishayas are more dangerous than Vishas.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. I have a question from Vinay Shuklaji. Who is free in me? That's the question. Let me unmute him. Vinayji, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, please. Is that your question? Who is free in me?
Yes.
Who is free in me? That's interesting. I mean, I am free. The question is, who is that I? That I is always free. It was never bound or anything. There is a verse in Upadesha Sara. It says, Ghanachanna drustim ghanachanna markam yatha nisprabham manyate chati mudha tatha vaddhavat bhati yo mudha cheta sanityopalabdhi swarupo hamatma. The sun is covered by the cloud, and the mudha, they think the sun is nisprabha, is without luster, without light. It's an simile, it's an example, yatha tatha. Similarly, Baddhavat, we think we are bound. We are always free. We have to remove that cloud to see the truth. That to free the free I am, the capital I, is covered, and our goal is to remove these coverings. So I am always free. Okay? Who else? Let's see. I think we are almost done. I don't see any other question. And we are almost at 8 o'clock, my time, 1 hour. So,
Yes.
yes, is there another question I hear? Deepaji, you didn't, your question is what time does it end? Let's see. Okay. Oh no, Swami Chidanandji wants to say something. Yes, Swamiji.
Yeah. Earlier, I did not ask any question. I only made some compliments and comments. Actually, I have a question of a different kind to you. You have lived in the Silicon Valley maybe 4 decades, and you have raised 2 wonderful boys whom I always met whenever I came to your home. Apart from your own, those 2 young men, you have met a number of youngsters in the Bay Area. So
Yes,
my
Swami.
question is, in your understanding, how open are the youngsters, the second generation immigrants, to Vedanta? Do they have a feeling for it, even considering those who are part of our satsangs, not those who never attended? Beginning with your sons and other boys and girls, do you see sometimes some youngsters who have a certain admiration for the Upanishadic wisdom?
I would say 2 categories. One is there is almost a second generation Indians who have come in the last 10 years. Some of them are same age as our kids or even younger. And then the second category is like my children, the kids who are born here. And thank you, Swamiji. My children always remember you so fondly. So the children, like my children, as you know, they were exposed to Chinmaya Mission Bal Vihar, so there is a little bit of seeds planted, and it stays with them even though they are not regular. When I try to say a few things, they're interested to listen. So that's that group. But I see quite a few young people. There are 2-3 second generation from India coming who have come in the last 10 years. They do attend the satsangs, but I would say majority are probably not, to be honest with you.
Maybe they need another few years to turn towards these things.
Yeah, like I said, you learn, you earn, you turn, then there is no return, you know.
That was wonderful, I tell you, that was wonderful. I never heard that.
Credit goes to Swami Tejamananji.
That's right, I'm not surprised. Okay, thank you, Gyanranjanji.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you all very much.
Thank you, Gnanji. It was really wonderful to hear you. Thank you.